The day before FNAF VR Help Wanted 2 came out, I was lucky enough to find the 4th Fazbear Frights graphic novel early in Indigo at the mall. The book actually isn't out yet and comes out on the 26th, but in this video I'll be doing what I always do with the graphic novels, and I'll be discussing all the interesting details that I noticed, the differences, and the inconsistencies. The artists for the graphic novels are basically given free reign for these books and have creative freedom, which is why a lot of the art doesn't match what's described in the original books. However, at the same time, the scripts for the graphic novels are provided, indicating what can be found in them is information that we can use. So most interesting details I point out will likely be in the dialogue, unless there's something interesting and specific in the art that I think could have been specifically requested to be drawn, and inconsistencies and differences will mostly be regarding the art. Although I will say, I don't even remember if I actually found any interesting details. It might just be inconsistencies and differences, but I think it's kind of fun to just point out these things and, poke fun at them. But either way, I think it's time we get started with talking about the Fazbear Frights graphic novel Volume 4, so without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. The first thing I want to talk about is the cover of this book. The covers of these books always look really cool, but they're not always entirely accurate, and this book is the same way. The cover shows the Tagalong Freddy damaged and monstrous with human-looking gums and teeth. This doesn't match the actual Tagalong Freddy from the book. Tagalong Freddy is just a small plush toy, and it doesn't have any human gums or teeth or anything like the plush type chaser does. It's also not a monster at all, and doesn't have any malicious intent or anything. It's most likely just a regular plushie trying to help Robert take care of Tyler. At most, it could be imbued with love or something, but either way, it isn't a monster. Number 2. Starting off, I just want to say that the art for the first story in the book, The Breaking Wheel, is really good. I could immediately tell that it was the same artist who made Hide and Seek's graphic novel version, which is inarguably the best illustrated Fazbear Frights graphic novel story, and maybe even the best FNAF graphic novel story in general, including the Silver Eyes trilogy. The Breaking Wheel's art goes almost as hard as Hide and Seek's did. The design of the robots, as shown at the beginning of the story, look really cool, especially the robot dog and Pickle, the Tow Mater looking ass dude's robot. Reed's doll also looks really good, and basically everything else looks great as well. Number 3. When Julius is talking to Reed about his exosuit and how Reed is dumb, a few weird things happen that I don't really understand. Julius explains how he was originally going to make the exosuit to be stronger and faster, but that he doesn't need it because he already is fast and strong, and doesn't need the suit's help to be an asshole. But then, after talking about how he doesn't need the suit, he puts on the suit. But why? What's the point? It kind of contradicts what he says at that time, and class is literally over at this point, so there's no reason to put this on in the first place. And yes, I know he does this in the original story, but it's kind of contrived and seems like it just happens so the story can happen. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It does look pretty cool though. It reminds me of the first Iron Man movie when Tony was building the armor before it was actually armor. Number 4. After remembering how Pickle's robot interferes with Julius's robot, he asks Pickle what the range is like, and Pickle says it shouldn't reach that far. Reed is still worried, but he tries his best to calm down and realize that Julius won't be reached, and even if he was, he is too far away to be able to hear all Julius's bones break. But when he's thinking about that, he thinks about how he won't be able to hear Reed's bones break, not Julius's like he meant. Just a little error. The same error actually happens a few pages later though, when Reed calls Julius's exoskeleton Reed's exoskeleton. I don't really know how this is messed up, but somehow it is. Number 5. I know I already talked about the art for The Breaking Wheel, but I want to again just because I think the art for Julius in this story is really cool. The design does a good job at showing how mangled his body is, and while I personally don't believe this to be the actual real Julius, but rather just like a manifestation of him created from Reed's fear and guilt, that manifestation would look the way that Reed expects him to, and so this design does a great job at showing how mangled his body had become to the point where he's just an actual dead body. His hands are just dangling now, and his face looks like a zombie. So yeah, I just really like his design. It doesn't perfectly match the way he looks in the Breaking Wheel's unused cover art, but it does look similar in some ways and the design makes sense, so I just like it a lot. Number 6. In Pickle and Shelly's house in this story, there is a model house which is basically an extremely accurate representation of their actual house. So accurate that you can tell the design for some of the rooms is just copied over. What is kind of weird though is that while this model house is very accurate to the real house, there are a couple things that are just slightly different in the bedroom Reed and Julius end up in at the end. Not only is the bed missing the space stuff that it has in the real version, but the chair at the desk is also different. It's unclear whether this was just a mistake or if it was an intentional decision to make it clear that the house isn't absolutely perfect. Considering the rest of the entire bedroom is basically entirely copied over from the real version, it'd be weird if the artist just missed those designs, but who knows. But that's everything I noticed in the Breaking Wheel story of this book, so now let's move on to Sergio's lucky day. Number 7. In the original Sergio's Lucky Day, Lucky Boy's sign reads, "I'm a lucky boy." However, the Ultimate Guide managed to get this wrong. Despite the book literally saying that his sign says this, the image right next to that shows the sign reading, "It's your lucky day." The character encyclopedia used the same piece of art for Lucky Boy, and so it also got it wrong. However, now with this graphic novel version of Sergio's Lucky Day, it seems it also got it wrong, as the sign once again reads, "It's your lucky day." I don't really know why this is messed up so much. Lucky Boy does say the line, "It's your lucky day" in the story, but I don't know why that is so commonly shown to be on the sign when that was never the case. Number 8. The art for this story is pretty solid, but one of the pages has the arrangement of the panels done in a super weird way. On pages 112 and 113, the panels go from left to right, extending onto both pages with the entire top row coming first and the entire bottom row going after the top row. Usually the panels go from left to right, top to bottom on each page, but in this case, for some reason, it's on both pages. I don't really know why this happened. 2 of the panels are even split up onto both pages. It's really weird and I don't know why it happened, but it did. Those 2 things were all I really noticed in Sergio's Lucky Day though. Number 9. The last story for this book is The Cliffs, which is featured on the cover as I mentioned earlier. The Cliffs in this book has a very unique art style that I'm not really sure I'm a fan of. There's a couple little things in the story that I just don't really think make that much sense, and I think it's more so because of the way that it was drawn. For example, when Robert goes to pick up Tyler from the daycare, he literally barges into the class and asks how Tyler was while all the kids were in a circle surrounding Miss Lauren. Not only does it not make sense to come in right now, especially since no other parents have, but it also doesn't make that much sense to ask how his kid was while all the other kids are right there, not to mention the fact that Miss Lauren answered the question there as well. Another thing is that when Tyler points out the tag-along Freddies, you can see all of them in their boxes staring in the direction of the reader rather than straight forwards like they should be. Number 10. When Robert puts Tyler to bed, Tyler says that he's tired and wants to sleep while Robert is reading a story, which Robert remarks usually takes much longer. In the background, when Tyler says he's sleepy, you can see that the clock says 7:40, but then like 2 seconds later, it's suddenly 7:45. Number 11. When Robert gets the message on his tag-along Freddy watch thingy, it says "Message from Freddy, it's all good, I'm playing with my best buddy." However, later, the watch instead says "A message from Freddy." It's not a major difference or anything, it's just the word added on, but you would think that the messages would remain consistent. Again, not major or anything though. Even weirder though, later on when Robert would get messages from Freddy, the watch would only say what the message is. Message from Freddy would not appear at all, only the actual message would. Not exactly sure why this has changed, but again, it's not super major, just something I observed. Number 12. This detail is a little uncertain since it's in the background of the shot and not very detailed, but after Tyler goes missing, right before the tag-along Freddy tells Robert to go to the cliffs, we see a picture on the wall in the background. It's hard to tell due to the lack of detail, but it looks to be a mother and a father holding a baby. This doesn't really make sense considering Robert's wife died when Tyler was born, meaning there couldn't have been a picture of the 3 of them together. Again, this is a bit uncertain, as since it's not that detailed we don't really know. I do think it's 100% 2 parents and a baby, but it could possibly even be Robert's parents holding him when he was a baby. I kind of doubt it and feel like it's probably just an error, but I don't know for certain. Number 13. Shortly after that, we get a shot of Tyler's room. In the room, we can see posters on the walls of stuff like baseball, cars, and random other stuff. And on his dresser, we can see stuff like a telescope, a giant human bat-looking thing, and... wait, is that... But that, guys, is everything that I noticed while I read the Fazbear Frights graphic novel Volume 4. The 5th one apparently comes out in like September, so it's going to be a while before another one of these videos, but it's not the last book video to come out for a while, as I'll be doing a video in the near future on the FNAF movie novelization, but stay tuned for that, and that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!